And in 6.3, we are going to be going back actually to using slope-intercept form. So I want to spend a little bit of time reviewing that. And we're going to take slope-intercept form and we're going to actually apply it to some real-world scenarios. So 6.3 is all about how you could apply this in life. So first thing to review is slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So the equations that we'll be working with today are going to be in slope-intercept form. Which of these variables represents the slope? The m, good. So the m is the slope. And what does the b represent? Y-intercept, good. B is your y-intercept. And then one other piece that I want to review about slope is always the rise over the run. And it's important to remember you're always doing the rise first. So rise over run. And if we jump to our next page, we've got our first scenario here. So a health food store has 15 bottles of one vitamin in stock. The manufacturer ships his vitamins in boxes of 20. Write a linear function that relates the number of boxes to the total number of bottles of this vitamin at the store. Graph the function that models the situation. So first thing we're going to do is actually pull out and write ourselves an equation. And I told you guys earlier, our equations are going to be y equals mx plus b. These are going to be written in slope-intercept form. So in order to write something in slope-intercept form, we've got to figure out what's the slope, which is how much it's increasing by each time, because your slope is the rise over the run. It's how much it's going up by, or it could be going down by. And we also have to know the y-intercept, which is basically your starting value. So I'm going to go ahead, and for my y-intercept, I'm going to write starting value. And that y-intercept is basically how much do we have at the beginning? Before we do anything at all, what are we starting with? Who just said that? It is linear, yep. 15, good. It says a health food store has 15 bottles of one vitamin in stock. So we're starting with 15 bottles. So I'm going to go ahead and put 15 in place of my B. I'm starting with 15 bottles. The manufacturer ships these vitamins in boxes of 20. So for every box that I get, how many vitamins am I getting? 20, right? So that would be my slope. That's how much it's increasing or decreasing by. It's increasing by 20 vitamins for every box. So that X right there represents my boxes. If I get one box, how many vitamins do I have? 20. If I have two boxes, how many vitamins? 40, right? So if we take 20 and multiply it by our boxes, that gives us our Y, which is our vitamins. How many vitamins we have in stock, or how many bottles of vitamins we have in stock. So this is your linear equation, y equals 20x plus 15. We have to graph it. When you go to graph, can we have a negative amount of vitamins or a negative amount of boxes? No. So in the real world, we can't really have a negative amount of vitamins. The least we can have is 0. So I'm only going to draw quadrant 1. That upper right-hand corner is all that I need for this graph. And my horizontal axis, that's my x-axis. I've got to throw a label on that. So if we look up here for my x, what does my x represent? My boxes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and label this as my boxes, because the x-axis is going to tell me how many boxes I have. And then my y-axis tells me what? The bottles or the vitamins that you have. Yep, so I could say bottles of vitamins. And before I start labeling my x and my y-axis, I want to think about what my y-intercept is, and I want to think about what my slope is. Because whatever increments or intervals I increase or decrease by, I want it to be easy to use with my y-intercept. So what's your y-intercept? What do you guys think the y-intercept is? 15, right? So we're going to have to plot a point at 15. So on our y-axis, we're going to want 15 somewhere on our y-axis, right? And then our slope right here is 20. And the slope is what really drives our intervals. So if my slope is 20, I'm going to write that as 20 over 1. That means that I have to rise up 20 and run over 1. So on my y-axis here, my starting value is 15. So I'm going to go ahead and put 15 because that's my y-intercept. I'm going to start at 15. And then I'm going to rise up 20 and run over 1. So if I want to rise up 20, what's 15 plus 20? 35. So why don't we just go up by increments of 20 then? Because our rise is 20. Now if I go up 20 more, what am I at? 55. Good. If I go up 20 more, and 20 more. 95. Good. So do you guys see why I chose to go up by 20? My slope is 20. I'm rising up 20. So it's going to be really easy for me to rise 20. I'm just going to go up one line. What's my run? 1. So guess what I want my boxes to be? 1, 2, 3, 4. So since I'm running over 1, I just want to be able to run 1. I want my run to be 1. So I'm going to plot my y-intercept, which is 15. So plot a point at 15 on your y-axis. And then we want to run up 20. Luckily for me, I did increments of 20. So I'm going to go up to 35, run over 1. Up to 55, run over 1. And you just have to have 3 points on your graph. You'll connect to those 3 points. And who can raise their hand and tell me, why do I only put an arrow on one end? Why is there only an arrow on the right side? Why not on the left side? Good. All right. It's only increasing. We're only going into the positive. We're not going to have a negative amount of vitamins or a negative amount of boxes. So we don't need an arrow going off into the negatives. Any questions on this first graph that we just did? All right. Let's jump to our next one. And in this scenario, we've got a car company. It has 40 cars in stock, and they sell 6 cars every week. So every week, they're going to lose 6 more cars. Assuming the company does not buy any new cars, how many weeks will it take to sell all of their cars? Write a linear equation and graph it. So we are going to write y equals mx plus b. And our y-intercept is our starting value. So what's my starting amount? 40, right? So in place of B, I'm going to go ahead and write 40 because I'm starting with 40 vehicles. Your B is always your starting value, 40. I'm going to have my y equals, and then my slope is how much it's increasing or decreasing by. Well, in this scenario, am I increasing or decreasing? Decreasing, so I want it to be negative since I'm decreasing. And how much am I decreasing by? 6 cars, right? Each time. So each week, I think it's each week, right? So each week, so X represents the weeks. Each week, we're losing 6 more cars. So we're going to take that negative 6 and multiply it by X, which is my weeks. And that's going to tell me how many cars are remaining, my Y value. Are we going to have a negative amount of weeks or a negative amount of cars? No. So we only want quadrant 1 for our graph. So we're going to draw quadrant 1. On my x-axis, what should my label be? Weeks. Very good. X is my weeks. And on your y-axis, what's your label? Cars. Yep, your remaining cars. How many cars are remaining? Now, because this problem here has a decreasing slope, my y-intercept is 40. So I'm going to start at 40, and then I'm going to be going down each time, right? So basically, on my y-axis right here, the highest that I'm possibly going to go is 40. I'm not going any higher than 40. That's my absolute max. And how many am I decreasing by each week? 6, right? So we're going to want to be going by increments of 6 on our y-axis. You guys agree? Now, can 6 go into 40 an even number of times? No. So what's the next closest thing to 40? 42. So I'm going to actually start at 42. I apologize if you already wrote 40 in there. And if I start at 42 and I go down by 6, am I at 36? And then 30, 24, 18, 12, and 6. So I'm doing increments of 6 because my slope is 6. So my slope is -6 over 1. So what do I want my weeks to go up by? Increments of 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 I'm going to do. All right, so what's your y-intercept? 40. So I'm going to go, I don't exactly have a 40 on my y-axis, but I'm going to estimate at about what 40 would be. And then if I have to go down 6 from 40. Oh, wait a minute. It'd be 34. Ah, I did bad intervals, didn't I? Yes, I did. I should have done it differently. I apologize. That's okay. We'll just estimate. So we're going to go down by 6, correct? And then over 1. I should have actually just started with 40 is what I should have done. And then I'm going to go down by 6 again and go over 1. And who thinks they could raise their hand and explain, why did I not put arrows on either sides of my graph? You can see on this graph, I didn't do arrows on either end. Why not? Good. We can't have a negative amount of cars. We can have a negative amount of weeks. So we're going to put arrows on either end. So about how many weeks is it going to take to sell all the cars? About 6 to 7, right? 7 weeks they could sell 42 cars. We only have to sell 40, so it's going to be just below 7 weeks that you're going to have, and all those vehicles will be gone. Questions on that one? All right, I'm going to start another